My wife married me just to break my heart. When my girlfriend was at her lowest, I broke up with her. Years later, after she found success and fame, she used every means possible to marry me. Everyone said I was her one true love, her most treasured husband. But in reality, every night she brought a different man home, shattering my heart and turning me into a laughing stock. I never fought back. I never cried or argued. I simply moved into the study, quietly, staying out of her way. She hated that. One night, furious, she kissed me roughly and whispered, "Aren't you jealous?" What she didn't know was that I was sick. While she spent each day trying to hurt me, I was silently counting down how many days I had left to live. In the third year of our marriage, my wife Claire started keeping a young, handsome college student. His name was Ryan. He was tall, good-looking, and exactly Claire's type. She kept him around for over 6 months, longer than any of the others. My friends warned me to be careful. They said Claire seemed genuinely attached to Ryan. The first time I met him was on my birthday. That morning, I'd woken up with a nosebleed that wouldn't stop. At the hospital, the doctor told me I probably wouldn't live past spring next year. I nodded calmly and said, "That's fine." I wasn't afraid of dying, I just didn't want it to hurt. There was an expensive medication that could ease the pain, but I didn't have enough money to afford it, so I went to Claire's office to ask for help. That's where I ran into Ryan. He had just graduated and was working as Claire's assistant. Claire was in a meeting, so I sat in the lobby to wait. Ryan kept glancing at me, then leaned over to whisper to his co-workers. "So that's the husband? He looks awful, so skinny and sickly, like he's on his deathbed." He laughed and added, "People say I look like him, but I don't see it. I'm way better looking." I caught my reflection in the glossy glass wall. Messy hair, a puffy coat that made me look even frillier. He wasn't wrong. I wasn't much to look at. Just a man waiting to die. A co-worker nudged him and whispered, "Don't underestimate him. If he cleaned up, you wouldn't even compare. And don't forget, Claire loves him. If you piss him off, she'll destroy you." Ryan wasn't convinced. He rolled his eyes and smirked. He brought me a cup of tea and asked mockingly, "So, Mr. Baker, why is Claire making you wait so long? It's weird. Whenever I stop by, no matter how busy she is, she always makes time for me. She says I'm her priority." He smiled smugly, and for a moment I saw a bit of my younger self in him. I thought about it. Claire did treat Ryan differently. She'd had countless lovers over the years, using them as pawns in her game to provoke me. Every night she brought home someone new, testing my limits, but she never kept them around for long. A day or two, maybe a week. She always got bored quickly. Ryan, though, was different. She spoiled him. She took him out to dinner, shopping, and movies. They acted like an ordinary, happy couple. She gave him money, but she also gave him affection. I looked at him and smiled gently. If you're so important to her, why settle for being her dirty little secret? You should convince her to divorce me and marry you instead. Ryan's expression darkened instantly. He glared at me, his voice shaking with anger. "You're the one who's useless here. You're nothing but a kept man. You only got to her first, but now you're old, you're ugly. What could you possibly offer her?" His coworker hurried over, pulling him away, clearly worried I'd be upset. But I wasn't. I promised myself long ago that I wouldn't get angry because of Claire. I wouldn't feel sad because of her. And I definitely wouldn't stoop to competing with her lovers. She wasn't worth it. Ryan was pulled back by a coworker, but he lost his balance, fell to the ground, and shattered the teacup in his hand. Blood poured from the deep cut on his palm, pooling on the floor. Through the glass of the conference room, Claire saw what had happened. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, she threw down her papers, pushed the door open, and hurried over to Ryan. She grabbed his hand with visible distress, frowning as she examined his injury. Her voice was cold as she asked, "Who did this to him?" The coworker who had tried to help Ryan stepped back in fear, their face pale. I let out a dry laugh. "It was me, and honestly, he deserved it." Ryan gritted his teeth and glared at me, then shouted, "Yeah, I deserved it. I fell for someone I shouldn't have. I'm the one being called a kept man, a plaything. But Claire," he said, looking into her eyes with a mix of defiance and passion, "as long as you love me, I'll stay by your side forever. No one can take me away from you." The words were absurd, but the way he said them, so firm, so sincere, made him seem almost brave. Claire couldn't help but laugh. She reached out to ruffle his hair and said softly, "Don't be mad, you're going to make me worry." She treated him differently. That much was obvious. I lowered my gaze, no longer interested in the scene. Instead, I calmly said to Claire, "For my birthday this year, I want $50,000. It was funny, really. We were married, yet we didn't even have each other's phone numbers. The only time I reached out to her was when I needed money. Before we got married, we had an agreement. She wanted me, and I wanted her money." Claire had always hated how materialistic I was. But in the past, no matter how much I asked for, she would always give it to me without hesitation. This time, though, she looked at me with a cold smile and said slowly, "You can have the money, but Isaac, first, lower your proud head and apologize to Ryan." Claire was willing to pay $50,000 to buy back my dignity and give it to Ryan in the form of an apology. It was the first time she had used money to humiliate me for the sake of another man. I clenched my fists and forced a laugh, holding back the sudden wave of pain that surged through my body. I turned and walked away. I didn't need the money anymore. For the first time, I was curious about Claire. If one day she found out that this money could have given me more time to live, if she knew how much I'd suffered before I died, what kind of expression would she have then? He threw it at me, his face twisted in anger. "Take your stupid doll," he yelled. "I don't want it. It's just some cheap piece of junk anyway. Who cares if it breaks?" The doll hit the ground and shattered into pieces. I stared at the fragments scattered across the floor, at the tiny shards with my name and birth date written on them. It felt like looking at my own life, broken beyond repair. For a moment I thought, this is it. I really am going to die. But I didn't want to die. Not yet. Not before I visited my mom. I was terrified that she'd be waiting for me, and I wouldn't show up. A buzzing sound filled my head, and before I knew it, I'd swung my fist at Ryan. "That was my mom's!" I shouted. I cared about it. I cared about her. Tears blurred my vision as I grabbed at him, but Claire stepped between us, blocking me. I stared at her through tear-filled eyes, laughing bitterly through the sobs. "You know I'm dying," I said, "and you're still doing this. Do you really love me?" She raised a hand and gently wiped away my tears. Her voice was soft, but her words cut deep. "First cake, now you're pretending to be dying? Isaac, do you think this is funny? You can cry all you want, but I'm not falling for it again." Before she could finish, a drop of blood fell from my nose onto her hand. More blood followed, dripping steadily. This time, it was worse than ever. My legs gave out beneath me, and I collapsed to the floor, pain radiating through my entire body. Claire dropped to her knees beside me, her arms wrapping tightly around me as she yelled, "Call an ambulance!" Her voice was frantic, desperate, but all she could do was watch as the blood kept flowing, staining her white blouse a deep, vivid red. I was unconscious, but I could hear Claire crying. Over and over, she kept pleading. "Why? Why won't the bleeding stop? Please stop the bleeding. Isaac, I'm begging you. Don't scare me like this." The sharp smell of disinfectant filled the air. I could hear a doctor speaking to Claire. He could have made it to spring next year, maybe even longer. But he said he didn't have the money and refused further treatment. Now, his condition is beyond control. There's no point in continuing. Claire's voice wavered as she interrupted. "So, what you're saying is, my husband is dying?" Her tone suddenly rose, filled with anger and disbelief. "Yesterday, he was fine. How can he be dying now?" Before the doctor could respond, she snapped, her voice shaking with fury. "I want my husband to live. If you can save him, then save him. If you can't, get out and find someone who can." That day, Claire nearly destroyed the entire hospital room. She called every specialist she could find, insisting that no matter the cost, she would keep me alive. But terminal illnesses don't care about money. Claire, stubborn and desperate, refused to listen to anyone. She was determined to discharge me and take me overseas for treatment. She had the money, the connections. No one at the hospital dared stop her, not until my childhood friend Sarah walked in with my living will. Years ago, I'd made her my legal proxy, giving her the authority to make all final decisions for me. I'd told her that if I ever ended up bedridden, unable to move, eat, or drink, she should let me go. She knew how much I hated pain. Sarah didn't waste time. She slapped Claire across the face, her voice cold and sharp as she pointed a finger at her. "All that money, and you're just now trying to play the hero? Where were you before, Claire? It's too late. He's dying. You're not taking him anywhere. Wherever I am, he stays with me." Claire stood frozen, staring at the will in Sarah's hands. After a long silence, her voice cracked as she whispered, "Sarah, please let me take him. I'm begging you. Believe me, he can survive this. He will survive this. He can't die. If he dies, what am I supposed to do?" Sarah's expression remained calm, her words cutting through the quiet like ice. "You're the kind of woman who can survive anything. Don't stand here pretending you're heartbroken. It's disgusting for everyone involved." She shoved Claire aside and sat by my bed, gently holding my hand. Her tears started falling the moment she tried to speak. "Do you really want to give up?" she asked me. Her sobs made my chest ache. I wanted so badly to lift my hand and wipe away her tears, to tell her not to cry for me. I just wanted to sleep, a long, peaceful sleep. If I fell asleep, the pain would finally stop. But then she asked, "Isaac, can't you wake up one more time? You told me that goodbye should be said properly. That way, no regrets are left behind. You haven't said goodbye to your mom. You haven't said goodbye to me. How could you leave like this?" Her tears fell harder, and mine followed. The heart monitor began to beep sporadically. The doctor urged Sarah to keep talking, saying there were signs I might regain consciousness. That day, Sarah held my hand tightly, refusing to let go. She didn't even drink water. She just kept talking to me. Sometimes she cried, sometimes she laughed. It was a little terrifying. Honestly, I'd been ready to let go, but the sheer force of her emotions made me feel like I had no choice. If I didn't wake up to comfort her, it wouldn't feel right. So, I fought with every ounce of strength I had left against my failing body. And finally, in the middle of the night, I opened my eyes. For over 2 weeks after I woke up, Sarah barely left my side. Her care was so over the top, it bordered on madness. She fed me, helped me to the bathroom, and nearly insisted on undressing me herself. I was desperate to recover quickly. If this went on any longer, Sarah might actually lose her mind. One afternoon, while she was out of the room, I decided to go to the bathroom on my own. I managed to walk there just fine, without any help. But as I was leaving, my legs suddenly gave out. I fell to the floor, hitting my face on the sink. Blood immediately started gushing down my nose. Struggling to get up, I accidentally pulled down the cloth that had been covering the bathroom mirror. When I looked up, I saw a horrible sight. My own face pale and haggard, bruised and bloody. Before I could process it, Claire burst into the room. She pulled me into her arms, shielding me from the mirror as if to stop me from seeing myself. Her voice was low and full of anger as she scolded. I was gone for 5 minutes to pay the bill, and Sarah just disappears. Useless. I pushed her away, frowning. "Don't talk about Sarah like that. I don't want to hear it. She has her own life, her own family, and a job. She's not like me, just sitting around all day being a burden to her." Claire fell silent, her lips pressing into a thin line. She grabbed a handful of tissues and started wiping the blood off my face. Her hands trembled as she worked, and I noticed her eyes reddening. In a forced, calm voice, she asked, "Why didn't you tell me you were sick? What's the point of having a mouth if you don't use it? Did Sarah mean more to you than I ever did? You told her everything, but you couldn't even tell me?" I met her gaze and replied evenly, "Because I don't need you. I don't need your concern. I don't need your company. So, whether you knew I was sick or not, doesn't matter to me." The truth was, I'd never deliberately hidden my illness from Claire. My medical reports had been sitting on the desk in plain sight. If she'd bothered to look, she would have seen them. But during the months when my body was wasting away, Ryan had entered her life. He was younger, more handsome, and far more charming than I could ever hope to be. For him, Claire stopped coming home at night. She didn't see me collapse on the floor, writhing in pain. She didn't see me cry in fear as I called the doctor, begging for help. A single tear fell from Claire's cheek onto the back of my hand. She turned her head away, her voice filled with bitterness. "Of course, Isaac. You're so great, aren't you? You can just toss me aside whenever you feel like it. Tell me to leave, and I have to leave. I get it. You don't need me. Fine." After a long pause, her voice broke as she whispered, "But I need you." Claire still didn't know why I broke up with her all those years ago. When she came back successful and radiant, asking me to marry her, I owed her an explanation. I'd planned to tell her everything. I wanted to explain that all the cruel things I'd said during our breakup were lies. She was amazing. She deserved the best man in the world, someone who could give her a happy family, children, a life free of poverty and illness. I practiced those words countless times, perfecting them so I could smile as I told her, I wish you happiness. But no one knows how many nights I cried in the dark, how much I regretted that the man who could have spent forever by her side wasn't me. When I finally mustered the courage to tell her, she was at a lounge for a business meeting. Her voice over the phone sounded tipsy, so I decided to check on her. She didn't answer when I called again, so I went to the lounge and started searching room by room. When I finally found her, I saw her kissing another man passionately, as if nothing else in the world mattered. I pushed the door open and she turned to look at me, not the least bit flustered. Clenching my fists, I asked, "Claire, are you playing me for a fool?" She pushed the man away and staggered toward me, leaning against my chest with the smell of alcohol on her breath. Still smiling, she said, "I was going to mess with you for fun, but after seeing how pathetic your life is, I felt bad. Isaac, why don't I just marry you? How about that? But I don't love you anymore," she added with a smirk. "So, you'll have to behave. No crying, no jealousy. I have a lot of lovers, and if you get upset all the time, it'll annoy me." Hearing her say she didn't love me anymore made my chest ache. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to stay calm. "Claire," I said softly, "I came here to tell you that I don't plan on marrying you. The reason I broke up with you back then was because of my mom." Before I could finish, she slapped me hard across the face. "Don't talk to me about your mom," she snarled. "Don't you dare pin all the blame on her. You and your mom are the same, obsessed with money. Neither of you is any better than the other." Her voice dropped to a threatening whisper. "Isaac, I said I'm marrying you. That wasn't a request. You should be grateful." She didn't let me explain. She said she wanted me to feel the same pain she'd felt back then. Looking at her now, she felt like a stranger. Maybe all the good I'd thought I saw in her, all the love my mom and I had given her, was nothing more than a delusion. Maybe I should have held on to her back then, forced her to stay, let poverty grind her down until she had no fight left. I'd been so stupid. She continued, "I heard Sarah used to work as a hostess at a lounge. Is that true? She got lucky finding a decent boyfriend. But what do you think would happen if he found out about her past?" I trembled with rage. "You're disgusting." She laughed, leaned in, and kissed me lightly on the lips. "Isaac, if it's revenge I want, I can do much worse than this. Don't believe me? Try me." Claire was ruthless. I didn't dare test her. Claire was ruthless. I didn't dare test her. I couldn't ruin Sarah's hard-earned happiness. I told myself it didn't matter. My life was worthless anyway. If marrying her was the price, so be it. Her revenge lasted a long time, long enough for Claire to grow tired of it and try to reconcile. But by then, I didn't love her anymore. There was no hiding my bruised and swollen face from Sarah. She was furious. For the next 2 days, no matter what I did, I couldn't escape her scolding. At one point, I couldn't take it anymore and burst into tears, pulling the blanket over my head. "You're so mean. All you do is bully me. If you've got the guts, take me to see my mom. You'd never win an argument with her." Sarah was silent for a long time. Then she gently ran her fingers through my hair and said softly, "Once you get better, I'll take you to see your mom. How does that sound?" I knew she was lying. I knew I wasn't going to get better, but I didn't want her to worry, so I smiled and nodded. "Okay." I started working harder to recover. I forced down handfuls of pills, endured endless injections that left my arms bruised and sore, and stopped complaining about the pain. Claire, who had been watching everything, slammed the door and stormed out. That night, I overheard her yelling at Sarah. "He wants to see his mom. Can't you just let him go? What's the harm in letting him visit her one last time?" Sarah snapped back. "You just want him to die sooner, don't you? You heartless witch. Are you that eager to get back to your boy toy without him holding you back?" I sighed deeply, hating myself for becoming such a burden, for putting Sarah in such a difficult position. I stopped asking to visit my mom, but my energy waned. I began sleeping more and staying awake less. I knew it was time to say goodbye to Sarah properly. Maybe it was the infamous last burst of energy people talk about before the end, but over the next few days my body hurt more than ever, while my mind felt strangely clear. Word must have gotten out that I was doing better, because Ryan decided to pay me a visit while Claire was out. The moment Sarah saw him, she exploded. "No trash or dogs allowed in here. Get out now, or I'll beat you so bad your own mother won't recognize you." But Ryan, for once, didn't fire back. Instead, he dropped to his knees beside my bed, tears streaming down his face. "Isaac, please," he begged. "Claire's pregnant with my child. You're dying. Please, just do the right thing and let her go. Let her be with the mother of my baby." Claire was 3 months pregnant, and I'd been sick for 3 months. So while she was telling me she needed me, she was wrapped up in someone else's arms. Of course. Why would she need a dying man? She'd just been lying to me. Good thing I never believed her. Ryan reached for my arm, tugging hard enough that I nearly fell out of bed. Sarah tried to shield me, but he shoved her aside. Summoning all the strength I had left, I kicked him square in the chest. He landed flat on the floor, and when he looked up, Claire was standing in the doorway, glaring daggers at him. Her voice was low and furious as she spat. "Didn't I warn you? If you ever came near my husband again, I'd kill you." Ryan's expression shifted, but before he could respond, Sarah picked up a pillow and hurled it at both of them. Her voice broke as she screamed, "Get out, both of you! You disgusting pair of dirtbags! Just leave!" Claire dragged Ryan out of the room. Before leaving, she told me to wait, that she'd come back to explain everything, but I wasn't going to wait. I didn't care. Sarah crawled by my bed, her voice gentle. "Isaac, are you okay? Are you in pain?" Clutching my chest dramatically, I gave her my best pout. "It hurts. My heart hurts. I think a shopping trip might help." She rolled her eyes, but when she saw I was in relatively good spirits, she gave in and agreed to take me out. I bought a roasted sweet potato and brought it into her car, even though I knew she had a strict no-food policy. Sarah had always been a neat freak, and she never let anyone eat in her car. But I was a dying man, so I shamelessly made a mess, letting crumbs fall all over the seat. She gritted her teeth and pretended not to notice. I directed her to a fancy bridal shop. Spring was coming, and Sarah was getting married. I wouldn't be there to see it, but I wanted to see her in a wedding dress at least once. Without asking why, she followed me inside, her eyes red but quiet. We didn't need words. We'd always understood each other. I picked out a strapless satin gown for her. While she went to try it on, I chose a groomsman's suit for myself. Once I was dressed, I barged into her fitting room and we took a picture together in front of the mirror. It felt like I was giving her away. She looked stunning in that dress, absolutely radiant. "You should buy it," I said. She rolled her eyes at me and whispered, "Buy it? Are you crazy? Do you know how expensive this is? Just take more pictures and call it a day." I laughed and let her enjoy her moment in front of the mirror, but when she wasn't looking, I went ahead and paid for the dress. She was the best woman I'd ever known. She deserved the most beautiful wedding dress in the world. The pain in my chest was unbearable by the time we left the bridal shop, but I didn't let it show. I hailed a cab and headed to the cemetery to visit my mom. This time, it was really goodbye. No jokes, no tears. Goodbye, Sarah. Goodbye, Mom. Epilogue. After Isaac's death, Claire couldn't stop wondering what he had been thinking when he signed the organ donation papers. She hadn't expected that the day she dragged Ryan out of the hospital would be the last time she'd ever see Isaac. He had watched the whole scene unfold, calm as ever. It was as if he didn't care whether she loved someone else. But deep down, Claire felt that in that moment, Isaac's heart had truly died. That's why he didn't wait for her to return, didn't give her a chance to explain. His body was sent to the hospital for donation. She didn't even get to keep a handful of his ashes. Isaac was ruthless like that. She started to regret not telling him the truth, that she really was pregnant. But the baby wasn't Ryan's. One night, Isaac had gotten drunk, and Claire happened to come home to grab some paperwork. He hugged her, calling her my sweet wife, and her hardened heart softened. While he was drunk, she slept with him. But unwilling to admit her feelings, she left quietly before morning. When she found out she was pregnant a few days later, she cried from joy. She paid Ryan to leave. She had always thought Ryan was a good boy, spoiled, sure, but obedient. She hadn't realized she'd been raising a venomous snake, one that would bite her the moment her guard was down. Now she couldn't stop wondering, when Isaac died, did he hate her? Then again, she thought, he was the one who left me. What right does he have to hate me? In her dreams, she kept asking Isaac, "Why did you break up with me all those years ago? You loved me, didn't you?" But every time Sarah would appear in her dream, standing protectively in front of Isaac, pointing at Claire and yelling, "Where were you when it mattered? He tried to tell you, but you didn't listen. Now that he's gone, you want answers? You're pathetic." Claire would wake up shaken. It wasn't Sarah she was afraid of. She was terrified that Isaac might say he'd stopped loving her long ago. Her health began to deteriorate, her heart weakening under the strain. The doctors told her to stop grieving. She lied and said she wasn't. She said she was fine. She even started gardening. On her balcony, she found the succulents Isaac had cared for. By the time she noticed them, they were already dead. She had heard succulents were resilient. She wanted to see if she could bring them back to life. At night, she would kneel by the pots and talk to the plants. She remembered seeing Isaac do the same on a sunny afternoon. He had been crouched there, tending to the succulents, when he turned and saw her walk in, wrapped in another man's arms. Claire slapped herself hard across the face. She began rewriting her memories, inserting herself into every lonely moment of Isaac's life. In her new version of the story, she was the one holding him tightly, kissing him softly, promising to stay by his side forever. At a party one night, she snapped and attacked a woman she'd heard was cheating on her husband. "And don't think you can get away with it just because the boss likes you," she yelled. When someone brought up the photos of her kissing Ryan, Claire froze. She fled the gathering like a criminal. She told herself she'd been set up, that someone was out to ruin her. She needed to think of an explanation for Isaac. She didn't want him to be upset. Anger was bad for his health, after all. Rushing home, she stepped off the elevator and saw a man waiting by her door. It was Ryan. Fear twisted in her stomach. Had Ryan already gone to Isaac? Had he lied to him? Made him upset? She dragged Ryan into the stairwell, her voice shaking with rage. "Why the hell are you here, Ryan?" She hit him, but Ryan shoved her hard. She tumbled down the stairs. Blood stained the steps. She lost the baby. Isaac's baby. She lost the baby. Isaac's baby. 2 weeks later, Ryan was in prison. Claire was sent to a psychiatric hospital. To everyone else, she seemed perfectly normal, except for one thing. She was always talking to a broken porcelain doll. The doll was old and battered, covered in cracks and glued back together in places. Its chest was missing a piece, as if its heart had been ripped out. Claire kept it on her bedside table and smiled at it often. "Why haven't you come to see me yet, my love?" she would ask. "Claire misses you so much. Do you miss me too?" After a moment, her eyes would fill with tears. She'd mumble to herself, "Oh, I forgot. Someone without a heart can't miss anyone." And then she'd remember. A long time ago, she had lost Isaac's.